There is a version of Joe Rogan that millions of people built their trust on. The version that questioned institutions, pushed back on power, and gave a platform to ideas that mainstream media wouldn't touch. That version of Rogan is what made Theo Von want to sit across from him in the first place.
It's changed over the years.
The ones with the horns. I don't know. You know.
You mean band members? Who are you talking about here?
Stuff. Music industry.
What happened in their most recent conversation wasn't a disagreement between two comedians with different politics. It was something quieter and more uncomfortable than that. It was a man trying to process a world that genuinely frightens him, reaching out to his most trusted friend in that room, and being redirected, deflected, and eventually dismissed every single time he got close to something real. Theo Von has been changing. Rogan has not. And that gap, playing out across 3 hours of a podcast, watched by millions of people, is the story of JRI episode 2478. To understand what this episode reveals, you need to understand what Theo Von has been through in the 18 months leading up to it. In late 2024, Theo was one of the biggest podcasters in the world. His show this past weekend was pulling enormous numbers. He had become one of the comedians most closely associated with the political orbit around Trump. His interview with the then candidate ran on his show and clips circulated widely. He was genuinely part of that world. Then, an ICE promotional video used footage of Theo without his consent. The government took a clip of him, out of context, and deployed it as content for an agency that was, at that moment, conducting operations that resulted in the deaths of American citizens. Theo received death threats. He needed additional security. The experience shook him in a way that a lot of people watching didn't fully register.
Obviously, there's a lot of deportations going on. It's sick when you see like children crying and people being taken from their parents. It's heartbreaking. Anybody thinks that that's heartbreaking.
That wasn't a political awakening in the traditional sense. It was something more personal. The machinery he had been adjacent to had reached into his life and used him for something he never agreed to. It made him more skeptical, more careful, more willing to ask questions that he might have waved away before. By the time he sat down for JRE 2478, Theo Von was a different person than he had been 2 years earlier. He was dealing with depression. He had been on antidepressants for over 20 years, having been prescribed them as a teenager, and was trying, carefully with a doctor, to reclaim some agency over his own mental health. He was asking larger questions about the world, about power, about what was being done in the name of people like him and his audience. He brought all of that into that studio. Early in the episode, Theo opened up about something that required real vulnerability. He talked about his 20-year relationship with antidepressants, about how the medication made him feel disconnected from the world, from himself, from his own thoughts. His exact words were that he wanted to feel how he was supposed to feel, so that he could have thoughts and actions that made him feel connected to the world. He said the medication made him feel dead.
And I want to feel how I'm supposed to feel so I can have thoughts and actions that like make me feel connected to the world. That shit makes you feel dead, man.
So why did you take him in the first place?
This was not a casual aside. Theo was describing a long and genuine struggle, one that a significant portion of his audience understands from their own lives. He was talking about wanting to reclaim his own inner life. Rogan's response was to tell him to hire a personal trainer. That's not an exaggeration. After Theo explained his morning routine, his work with a doctor, the slow and careful process he was going through, Rogan told him he had money now and should hire someone to come to his house every day. The conversation about 2 decades of mental health struggle was redirected within minutes into a discussion about kettlebells and exercise science. Rogan isn't wrong that exercise has real mental health benefits. That part is fine. The issue is what got lost in the pivot. Theo wasn't asking for a fitness tip. He was processing something real out loud with someone he trusted. And the response was, "You can fix this. Just add a trainer. Come hang out with us at the mothership tonight." That last part matters more than it might seem. Throughout the episode, every time Theo expressed a concern about the world, about AI, about concentrated power, about the direction things were heading, Rogan's response eventually landed in the same place. Come to Austin. Be around the crew. You're isolated in Nashville. The mothership will sort you out.
Shane, Ron White, Tony Hinchcliffe, Brian Simpson, Asan Ahmad, Derek Poston. We were just laughing and laughing. It's so fun. And everyone's going on stage and fucking tearing it up. It was exciting.
What Rogan described in that moment was a green room. Shane Gillis, Ron White, Tony Hinchcliffe, Brian Simpson. Everyone laughing. Everyone killing it on stage. The energy in the air. Something happening in comedy right now. He's not wrong that sounds fun. That genuinely sounds like a good night. But Theo wasn't asking about fun. He was asking about the world. He was asking why power concentrates the way it does, why money moves the way it moves, why the institutions he grew up trusting have failed the people who needed them most. And the answer he kept receiving was, stop being alone in Nashville. Come be around comics who are your friends. The implication sitting underneath all of it was that Theo's concerns about the world are a symptom of his social circumstances, that if he just lived closer to Rogan and the crew, he would feel better about the drone strikes, about the surveillance technology, about the politicians and the wars, and the money going overseas. That is a profound misreading of what Theo was actually saying. The most revealing moment of the entire episode came when Theo brought up Palantir Technologies. This wasn't the first time. He had raised it in a previous appearance, and apparently Rogan had still not looked into it in the time between the two episodes. For context, Palantir is a data analytics and AI company co-founded by Peter Thiel, a billionaire who has a documented friendship with Joe Rogan. The company has openly acknowledged, through its own CEO, that it is actively supporting the Israeli military in Gaza. The CEO was recorded saying he was proud to support Israel in every way they can. The company's software has been used to assist targeting operations in the conflict.
Palantir was involved in Gaza, yeah.
For sure?
Mm-hmm.
Put that into perplexity. Because
Allegedly.
So how does that work? They have like facial recognition and ID software and...
That's scary. That's the shit that's just scary, dude. Because they have a huge contract to take care of all of America's.
And you ever see that dude, Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, the way he moves his arms around and squirms and talks?
This is not disputed. It is in the public record. When Theo brought this up, Rogan's response was to look it up on Perplexity, the AI chatbot that sponsors his podcast. The results that came back were clear. Multiple sources, the CEO's own statement, confirmation from several outlets that Palantir had scaled its partnership with the Israeli military significantly since 2023. Rogan's response to that information was to question the source. The first source was described as potentially biased because of how it phrased things. The second was questioned because of its name. The Guardian was raised Solar des Indaris, one of the most established English-language newspapers in the world, and Rogan asked whether it was reliable. He eventually landed on the idea that maybe it's just complicated, that there are a lot of different versions of things, that maybe AI will sort it all out.
What about The Guardian? Is that reliable?
I'll put it in a perplexity, but...
No, it's okay.
The irony of that last suggestion is almost too on the nose to address. Theo was raising concerns about AI surveillance technology being used to assist military operations targeting civilians. Rogan's proposed solution to that concern was that AI would probably fix it. The same technology, fixing the problem it is causing. This is a man who not long ago was one of the loudest voices questioning institutions and demanding transparency. Watching him question the credibility of a source because of its name, rather than engage with the substance of what the source was saying, is difficult to reconcile with the version of Joe Rogan that built the trust his audience placed in him. Underneath all of the specific conversations, the antidepressants, the mothership, the Palantir discussion, there was one thing Theo kept coming back to. He said it in a few different ways across the episode, but the clearest version was this. It just sometimes feels like the world's heart is broken. He said it wasn't even just his heart. It felt like a universal heart, something shared, something that connects people who are watching the same things happen and feeling the same helplessness about it.
And it's not even like my heart. It feels like this universal heart, like that we're all a part of or something.
Right.
It feels like, because it's not like I'm brokenhearted, like if I was like, fell out of like a marriage or something, but it just feels like there's this universal heart.
There's some sadness. There's some sadness in the way the world today is being run.
Rogan's response in that moment was to agree. He said there was sadness in the way the world is being run. He said, humans are better than this. Theo, visibly relieved that they were finally on the same page, leaned into it. And then, within the same breath, Rogan pivoted into a commentary about tribal instincts and gender and the culture war. The agreement lasted approximately 4 seconds before the familiar detour arrived. Theo's face, in those moments, is the story. He keeps getting close to something. He keeps seeing a moment where the conversation might go somewhere real, and then the conversation doesn't go there. The pattern across JRE 2478 isn't random. It's consistent enough that calling it a pattern is accurate. Every time Theo raised something that touched on power, on the people Rogan knows, on the organizations Rogan is adjacent to, the conversation shifted to exercise, to the mothership, to source credibility, to culture war tangents that move the focus away from the specific thing Theo had just raised.
But it's like people are wondering, like, yeah, in 5 years, is money going to be worth anything?
Right.
Is there going to be some token like Sam Altman's talking about?
Right.
And what the fuck does that even mean?
Right, what does that mean?
So anyway, I don't want to sound like a doomsdayer. Dude,
Too late.
Yeah.
Too late. That's what you sound
Do I
like.
sound like a sad person?
A little bit.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Let's talk about something else. Dude, you know what I was listening to today, bro?
What?
Well, I guess it was a night.
This might be unconscious. Rogan may not be running a deliberate strategy, but the effect is real regardless of the intent. Theo Von is sitting across from one of the most listened to people on the planet, trying to process things that millions of people watching are also trying to process. And the answer he keeps receiving is, come hang out, get a trainer, don't worry about the sources. There is something specific that makes this particular dynamic worth paying attention to. Theo Von is not a typical left-coded critic of Joe Rogan. He came from the same world. He had the same associations. He was on the same podcasts, talked to the same people, moved in the same circles. When Theo starts asking questions, those questions carry a different weight than when someone with an obvious political agenda asks them. They come from inside the house, and that's exactly why the pattern of deflection matters. If Theo were a progressive commentator on an opposing network, Rogan would engage with him as a political opponent. But Theo is a friend. He's a comedian who has been inside Rogan's world for years. When even that person sits across from you and says something feels broken, and you respond by suggesting he move to Austin, that tells you something about how unreachable certain conversations have become. At the end of the episode, Theo thanked Rogan for having him. He said things felt kind of scary out there. Rogan agreed, a little, and then reminded him that he was on his own in Nashville, and that wasn't good for a comedian.
Oh, it's a little also scary. I keep telling you this because you're on your own out there. You're out there living in Nashville.
I'm getting close to being here.
There ain't a lot of comics out there, dog. I mean, Bargatze's out there, but he's always doing fucking stadiums on the road and shit.
The prescription, one more time, was proximity to the crew. Theo is taping a new comedy special within the month. He's been through a genuinely difficult period. Mental health, the ICE video fallout, the botched recording of his previous special, the road, the loneliness that comes with touring. He is doing the work. He is asking questions. He is trying to understand the world that he helped shape in some small way over the last few years, and what his responsibility looks like now that he has seen more of how that world actually operates. None of that is a crisis that a green room can fix. The questions Theo is asking are not symptoms of isolation. They are the result of paying attention. What the episode made clear is that Theo Von and Joe Rogan are in genuinely different places right now. Not politically exactly, and not in terms of their friendship, which appears to be real, but in terms of what each of them is willing to look at directly without flinching.
We did a good job.
I'm sure.
Dude, he's so funny.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
Some
going
good
to be
scenes.
awesome.
But thank you for everything, dude.
My pleasure,
And it's
brother.
good to see you. And,
Always good to see you.
Yeah.
Come by tonight. Let's hang out.
I'll come by. I have a show tonight, but I'll come by.
Where you at?
I'm at this movie theater. I'm practicing for my special, so I got to get ready.
What time are you at the Moody?
Theo is still figuring out what he thinks. That process, happening in public on one of the world's most watched platforms, is actually one of the more honest things happening in the podcast space right now. Most people in that world have already decided what they think and spend 3 hours confirming it. Theo hasn't decided yet, and the fact that he keeps showing up and asking the questions anyway, even when the answers he gets back are hire a trainer and move to Austin, says something worth noting. Some questions don't go away just because the room gets more comfortable.